Oh, by the way, I missed this part. Many of you may be familiar with these policies, but for those of you who are not, we hope this page sheds some light on what can sometimes be misreported or quite confusing. Wow, last famous words. Where's my magic wand? Quite confusing. Well, welcome to the club, because you've made this so confusing it took me 3 hours to figure out what you're on about. And now we're going to talk about how they're going to finance their house, how their houses are being financed, their security, and how they get money not only from the sovereign grant, but also from the father of Harry, Prince Charles. And if I'm wrong, well, you guys should put some figures up here. Not 50% or 4% or 5%. There's no actual factual figures in millions here. Let's get to it. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex take great pride in their work and are committed to continuing the charitable endeavours as well as establishing new ones. Oh, the company's going to grow. In addition, they value the ability to earn a professional income, which in the current structure they are prohibited from doing. For this reason, they have made the choice to become members of the royal family with financial independence. Their Royal Highnesses feel this new approach will enable them to continue carry on their duties for Her Majesty the Queen, while having the future financial autonomy to work externally, in brackets, piss off to Canada, and show their face once a year at Christmas at Buckingham Palace. While the contribution from the sovereign grant covers just 5% of costs for the Duke and Duchess, it is specifically used for their official office expenses. So let's get this right. 5% from the sovereign grant is used for their official expenses. That doesn't mean that they pay the jet when they piss off to Africa to save the rhinoceros. It's just their expenses. You know, it's like the businessman, you know, the company gives him a car, gives him a mobile phone, and he gets €200 per night to eat somewhere out, not even the hotel. So that's expensive. So 5% from the sovereign grant. Now, if I skip down here, there's going to be a lot of skipping down because they've made it like you buy a new printer and, you know, it tells you, oh, to find this, go to page 52. On page 52, they say, well, if you've done this, but you haven't done this, go back to page 5. From page 5, go to page 180. This is what they've done here. So let's see what this sovereign grant is. And it's somewhere down here. Here it is. In the 2018-19 fiscal report, Her Majesty the Queen surrendered approximately £239 million from the Crown estate to the government. In exchange for this contribution, in return, the government granted the sovereign approximately £82 million to cover the costs for official expenditure. This constitutes the sovereign grant. So, they're getting 5% of 82 million. So 10% is 8.2 million, 5% is 4.1 million. That is their pocket money. But this doesn't end here, because there's another thing which is a complete mess and they should have explained better. And we have to go back a paragraph. How has the office of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex been funded up to now? Since the establishment of the office of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, 95% of the funding received for their office expenditure is delivered from income allocated by His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, that's Prince Charles, that's the father of Harry, generated through the Dutchy of Cornwall. This provision has been in place since Prince William and Prince Harry first established their offices in support of the Queen. Yeah, of course, the whole family makes money from this, and people complain that the kids of Donald Trump have money, but they already had money before he became president. But never mind, we're not talking about Trumps now. And it is the responsibility of the Prince of Wales. This information continues to be available. Yeah, we're going to get to that, the Dutchy of Cornwall. So listen to this. They're getting 4.1 million as the 5% from the sovereign grant, and the other 95% is from this fund from the Prince of Wales. Again, they don't put any figures here, but if 5% is 4 million, then 10% is 40 million, 100% is 400 million. So if we take 4 million of 400 million, that leaves me with 396 million. So these guys have got pocket money for 396 million a year. If I'm mistaken, it's not my fault. All I see here are percentages. Complete confusion here. And you're saying you're going to bring clarity on things that often are misinterpreted or are confusing. Job well done, mate. I mean, the company who put this together, oh yeah, I know it's marketing, yeah, it's strategy. They don't expect people to come and read the nitty-gritty text and do the mathematics. Well, I'm sure journalists are doing that at this very moment. I'm not a journalist. The official residence of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Frogmore Cottage, very appropriate name. How is it funded? This is where I say, put the fucking numbers up. The cottage was refurbished before they were going to be getting married and all that, and blah, blah, blah. Financed from the sovereign grant. Why did they choose this residence? Because originally, their previous residence of Nottingham Cottage on the grounds of Kensington Palace could not accommodate their growing family. The option of apartment 1 in Kensington Palace was estimated to cost in the excess of £4 million for mandated renovations, including the removal of asbestos, blah, blah, blah. The previous lodgings was renovated for £4 million. As a result, Her Majesty the Queen offered the Duke and Duchess the use of Frogmore cottage, which was already undergoing mandated renovations, they haven't put how much, and would be available to move in before the birth of their son. The refurbishment cost equated to 50% of the original suggested property for their proposed official residence at Kensington Palace. So, we've now got the figure. 50% of 4 million is 2. It's actually 2.4. As I've been reading today, the British newspapers, or at least that's the figure they put on there. So these guys are pissing off to Canada. They're going to keep their 2 million just refurbished. It must have a value of 20 million. They're going to be keeping that as their residential home when they pop over to the UK, and then they're going to be living in some luxurious villa in Canada. Wow, that is an adjustment. I'd love to change places with you guys. I really would. And of course, they will be maintaining the cottage because Frogmore Cottage will continue to be the property of Her Majesty the Queen. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex will continue to use Frogmore Cottage with the permission of Her Majesty the Queen as their official residence as they continue to support the monarchy, and so that their family will always have a place to call home in the United Kingdom. Jesus Christ. I thought you had Buckingham Palace. Oh, never mind. I mean, this is, the mind boggles. And these guys are just pissed off. They've got a chip on their shoulder just because the press wrote some nasty stuff about them. Well, you wait after 6 months living in Canada or in the USA. Dear, oh dear. Does their future financial autonomy extend to covering the costs of travel? Well, okay, we're going back to the expenditure from the royal grant where the expenses get paid, not the petrol for the jet. And here we go. Last but not least, this made me laugh. Now, I heard in various interviews in the last few days that apparently their bodyguards only in Canada or in America would cost about £600,000 a year. Does their future financial autonomy extend to covering the costs of security? The provision of armed security by the Metropolitan Police is mandated by the Home Office, a ministerial department of Her Majesty's government, responsible for security and law and order. As stated on Gov UK, no breakdown of security costs is available as disclosure of such information could compromise the integrity of these arrangements and affect the security of the individuals protected. It is long established policy not to comment upon protective security arrangements and their related costs for members of the royal family or their residences. And obviously this is complete bullshit, yeah? So if I find out that they have to spend £6 million instead of £600,000 for their own bodyguards, does that make a difference to me? Like, I mean, someone who wants to do them some harm, how will that compromise the integrity of these arrangements? I think more compromising is the fact that the whole world now knows that they're going to be somewhere in Canada or in the USA, then sheltered in the British cocoon of, okay, we're going to piss off the royalty sometimes with a bad article in the newspapers, but otherwise we will protect them from paparazzi, as hadn't been possible, for example, in Paris concerning Lady Diana. This is a big car crash. This is going to be a car crash. Last but not least, we're going to suss out this Dutchy of Cornwall. Remember, that's the other 300 million, as far as I've understood. Maybe I've misunderstood it. What these two guys get from their father's Dutchy of Cornwall. Let's go and visit the Dutchy of Cornwall. So here we are on the website of the Dutchy of Cornwall. And the Dutchy of Cornwall is a well-managed private estate. The revenues from the estate are passed to His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales. Blah, blah, blah. Why am I here? Because I'm looking for the accounts. Now, obviously, it's not obvious. So I had to scroll down and look for it, sift through it with a magnifying glass and maybe a microscope. But I think it's somewhere down here. Here we go. How can I find the Dutchy accounts? Available here. Okay, let's click on it. This looks like a travel brochure, but what we need is 2019. So let's click on 2019. And here we have download the 2019 integrated annual reports here. And again, it's like a holiday brochure for visiting churches and pubs and booking into bed and breakfasts. But somewhere down here, the actual accounting. Now, I'm not here because I'm trying to find any mistakes, but I just found one thing that sort of hit me, which I thought, oh, typical. Where on the other website they stated, oh, everything should be clear so that there are no misunderstandings. I have to go all the way down here, right at the bottom. And here we have the first group revenue account statement of comprehensive income. Now, when I first looked at this, I thought, no, somebody made a mistake. It's £35,000 revenue, £35,000, and then stupidly, because I'm not an accountant, probably this is the standard form of doing this. Well, it's not on my accounting because I haven't got any millions. Maybe if I had it would have been similar, but this is not £35,000. This is £35,575,000 if I've understood it correctly. This is all, add another 3 zeros to these numbers. The only main reason why I went here was to try and figure out if it's possible, because of the previous confusion, whether Harry and Meghan actually get something around 390 million expenses per year. So having looked through this, now for example, the staff costs here for the Dutchy of Cornwall come to 5 million. There's lots of things about borrowings and investing capital and yield from agriculture. We're talking in the millions. So it would be nice if Harry and Meghan on their own page actually put some figures, because people are getting interested. The main question is, in the UK now, since 2 days, is if they're going to piss off and make their money, will they still be financed by money generated from the British taxpayer, or where is the money coming from? And I haven't figured out one thing: how much does actually Prince Charles give those to? Because if it's 95% and they only get 5% from the Queen's fund, from the sovereign grant, which I've worked out to be 4 million, the other 95% must be 396 million. But as I said, if anybody would like to enlighten me, I'd be really interested. So that was the end of that. Let's get rid of all of this.